up against the wall, I'm never giving up, I give my all. I'm never looking back, attack, it's in the past. Stand up, stand up, stand up. You ain't ready for me. Give me your best shot, the stronger I stand. Not looking for sand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition of ZFG Radio. This is part one of the 10-part docuseries following the transition of one of my favorite people, one of my best friends. You know her as Liana Bardin. I have known her as Joey Bardin, Liana Bardin, Chris DeLeon, Liana DeLeon, simply my best friend. Liana, you have been on a hellacious, just turn of life event. And as many people don't, some people might not know, the whole part of this docuseries is to put a spotlight on the lower middle class transitions. Because we know about Caitlyn, and how Caitlyn Jenner did the transition real fast, just boom, 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 boom. That's not how it works for the lower middle class people, So let's go through, step by step. Before you were Liana, you were known as Joey. So explain to the audience the day that you realized that Joey wasn't who you really were.
Well, I remember at 9 years old, I was in a foster home, and these girls, my foster sisters, dressed me up in a blue dress, and they put makeup on me, and I don't remember exactly what makeup they put on me, but I just remember them putting makeup on me. I remember lipstick specifically. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and at the time I had hair, and it was kind of long a little bit, but anyways, I just kind of looked at myself, and I was like, wow, I'm so pretty. And I didn't think about it from that point. And then when I was 14, I came out to my mom, and I said, I really want to be a girl. And she, of course, didn't take it very kindly to that, because it was the 1980s and it wasn't accepted. I think it was 1980, 1984, 1983. I'm not good with years. I'm not good with math, is what I should say. So I told her, and she says, not my little boy, and, just kind of shut things down. And then she says, don't tell your grandma, which means that if I would have told my grandma, I may have been able to transition at the age of 14, but I didn't, as we all know. And then, of course, at 16, I discovered heavy metal, which is an integral part of my story. As you know how much I love heavy metal music. There are certain bands that got me through just different parts of my life, but I know we're talking about my transition. So at 16, I had discovered heavy metal, and my hair was, I think it was a little bit down to here, and I had a gold stud earring in my ear. And I came out to my dad, and I said, Dad, I want to be a girl. And he asked me if I wanted, and of course I didn't know what that word meant until about 2 or 3 years later, when somebody used it and explained it to me what it meant. And so anyways, so I would say for me, in my teenage years, I knew that I knew. Now, fast forward to 2 years ago, I went to a drag show, and Stevie's my wife is you could do that if you wanted to. And I thought about it for a few days, and I realized that I didn't want to be, no insult to drag queens, because I absolutely love drag queens, and I think that they're amazing performers. And but I didn't want to be a part-time woman. I wanted to be a full-time woman. And I recounted in my in my head that I've known since I was 14. So let's move ahead with it. So that's kind of how that happened.
Well, growing up in the 1980s and like going through something like that, I was born in 97. So I
Right.
didn't have the pleasure of, growing up in the 80s, unfortunately. But, I've heard a lot of stories because, like, my mom would tell me stories about some of her friends that, were back then they called them flaming faggots, and it's a
Yes.
derogatory term now, but
Yeah.
that's what people called them. And, when you hear that word, what it meant was like obviously gay people.
Right.
Now you fast forward to like 2020. Like, how does that shell shock? Because you're a person that grew up in the 80s and stuff like that, late 80s, early 90s. Like, how does that make you feel that like back in the 80s, it was like fuck you for being gay, like you're going to hell, blah blah blah. Now like 2020, the Westboro Baptist Church can suck our left nut, and like transgenders, gay people, the whole LGBTQ plus whatever. I don't know what's all in there now, but and how popular that is. How does that like make you feel as now like not only a member of that community, but like just somebody looking at them and like, damn, that really exploded.
Well, I mean, like, I think, and I hope that I answer your question correctly. Like, originally, like, I didn't know what, like, fag or homo or anything is. And anybody that's listening, I'm just using them as reference. I think they're horrible terms. I never, like, used them, in my everyday life or at any time, because I had that understanding of who I was meant to be. So, but at the same time, I didn't understand that we were all in the rainbow. Because the rainbow wasn't. If it was around, I wasn't aware of it. And so um, I think that I've grown a lot in the past 2 years, especially since I've been on TikTok, and the things that people say to me on TikTok. I've had to filter out different words to where you can't leave comments to call me certain names. Um, and I just think it's it's people that are closed-minded about life and who you are as a human being. And who let me just live my fucking life. You know, let me just, like, if you disagree with me being transgender, then honestly, get the fuck over it. It's none of your business. It really is none. If somebody's gay, it's none of your business. It's really not, like, it's none of your business. It's really like,
Exactly.
if it doesn't affect your life, like, personally, then get the fuck over it. Like, really. Like, it's has nothing to do with your life. So I need to put that on TikTok.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like, eh, let's fast forward, just a tad bit when you came out, and like, you weren't the first one of our friends to do it. Mia, I'm gonna have a podcast with her about it later. Um, but you were one of the firsts, and a lot of people have came out since then. Came out, go back into the closet, go back in, and like, in and out, stuff like that. And before we get to your transition, like, how does that make you feel as a person that is, you're what, like almost 2 years deep, right? Like, almost.
2 years.
Yeah, no, you're like full on 2 years deep, and like, how does it make you feel that like you've stayed out, and you've done, you're doing the necessary steps, the hormones, you're doing the whole gig, you've became a woman. The Joey is dead. The Joey I knew, because I can say that because like I knew Joey personally, very deep. I was there. For a lot of traumatic moments. I was there when the dad thing happened. I was there for it all, and like, and to meet this person, like, it's so much better because like Joey was just depressed and just like beaten. He was like a beaten down old yeller. And like this person, it's like a brand new life. So how does it make you feel when like you go through all of this, and then you get people that just like they go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, and then they like, and then when they're out, they're like not even like really out, like.
Well, I think, like, I was kind of talking about that within the past 24 hours. And I think I was talking to my wife about it. It's like, it's just like, you're either in it or you're not. And like, some people can't commit to completely changing their lives because, and I know that you're talking about someone in particular, I think what's happening is that there's been such a drastic change in me, like such a huge change in me,
Ginormous.
that yeah, exactly. And like, and I'm just like doing step by step. Like today I put my lashes on. That was a big deal for me, you know? And like, I'm taking the necessary steps to be more feminine, to be more of a woman. And I think that like when people see that, they just can't commit to it. They just can't commit to it for whatever reason. They can't commit to it. But like, it's it's sad, it's depressing, and it's also worrisome to the point to where you worry about the person and their mental health. And I'm not, and I know that this person is probably going to watch this, so I'm going to say this to that person, and you me because you got my messenger. In no way, shape, or form am I downgrading you or talking shit about you. What I'm saying is that I am concerned about you. I am concerned about you as a human being, not as another transgender woman who's having a problem with her transition. I'm concerned about you as a human being, and I love you. And if you want to talk to me about transitioning, and because you've been talking to me about transitioning, you can. But anyways.
Now, like, and this transition has not been all cupcakes and rainbows.
No.
It has been a very tough road for you. And I've been here, the entire 2 years. I've witnessed entire transition from day one to now. And
So have I.
But well, obviously. So let's talk about like one of the biggest obstacles, and you don't have to go to it into detail, but I feel like for the trans community you should. I don't know if you can, but I feel like you should for the trans community and for the LGBTQ plus whatever. And I'm not disrespecting you guys. I just don't know what all you guys have in there anymore. I don't keep up to date with it. So like the job situation, because I know because I've been in upper management for big, large corporations, that when somebody comes in employed as a male and then, the transition happens to female or vice versa, there's a lot of people can say, you can't let personal feelings cloud your judgment, but you said it best, we're human. And not everybody is going to accept it off the bat. There will be comments, questions, and shit like that. How was it the first time you had worked as Liana?
Let me just say this, that I can only speak specifically on jobs because I'm
not looking for you to name drop any corporation.
No,
That's not
no,
that's
no,
not,
no,
not what I
no.
want to hear.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can only specifically talk about it because I will say that my name is out there already. Like, because I've worked very, very hard to get my name out there in 2 years. I am in the middle of a lawsuit, so there are only specific things I can talk about. So I can talk about my job when I came out at 24/7. I went to my TL, who is basically my boss and my team lead, and I was like, hey, look, and I didn't think he'd accept it because he was like in his 60s. He was an older guy, and I thought, I thought to myself, fuck, this is gonna be hard. And I came out to him, and he's like, yeah, awesome. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, just awesome. That's great. And I'm like, okay, so I can come in as Liana. He's like, yeah, you just come on in. And like, I think the next day I've been Liana ever since. I've had, I can't talk about that.
Well, here, I'll ask a question, and you can just answer with a simple yes or no. You know, we don't have to go into any form of detail because I don't want the lawsuit thing to get bad. Discrimination against trans women or trans men is real, yes?
Yes.
And you know, like how does that make you feel knowing that, like, from an outsider's perspective, like, take yourself away from the situation, that like something of that magnitude would go down? Like,
What are you protecting?
exactly. Like,
What you like? Why? Like, why will you not hire me? Like, what do I like? What do I threaten? Like, seriously. Like, if
exactly. And
like
see, like,
I threaten nothing.
I worked for one of the largest retailers in the world. I'm not going to drop any names because I'm not trying to get sued, but I worked for one of the largest retailers in the world, and I was up there in the management world. And, you know, we had a person who, we'll just change names for a moment, who came in, you know, who was Tom, was hired as Tom. We knew Tom for a long time. Well, then the next day, you know, I think he was there for like 5 years. And then, like, all of a sudden, he was Linda. And like I remember manager meetings of just like, we need to find a way to get rid of this person and stuff like that. And I'm hearing this stuff. I'm like, guys, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's still a human being. And like, this person, the performance did not go down. She was not a distraction. And like, yeah, people had comments on the floor, you know, like, oh, it's transgender, like, oh, it's the
Right.
devil, you know. But there's also the same, like, as much negative as there was a lot of positive. You know, you still had those people that were like, oh, fuck yeah, dude, be you, and stuff like that. And like, and I always tell every transgender, like, look, I got one rule. I call everybody dude. Like, yeah, I'm gonna call you dude. I'm sorry. It's not like because you're a male or you're a female or anything. Like, I just call everybody dude because it's easier that way. Everybody answers that, hey, dude.
I want to speak on that for a minute. Um, about a month ago, and I am name dropping, my buddy Teddy Badstreet, and that's his work name because like we'll get into that. Um, uh, he called me dude, and I'm like, he's like, no, 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 because he's known me for like, oh my god, 20 years, right? And he goes, no, 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 none of that shit. No, we're not having that shit. He's like, you're dude. That's good. You've always been dude. You're gonna be dude. And he's like, dude is universal. I'm still gonna call you dude. If you don't want me to call you bro, that's fine. I got no problem with that. But dude is universal. And so he taught me about that, and my wife backed him up on it. And then you kind of gave me the dude conversation as well. So the other day I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and I was like, dude, and she's like, you can't do that. I'm like, let me video conference you for a minute. So I taught
Like,
her
look here,
about it.
motherfucker.
I'm like, okay, dude, 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 dude. You know,
So
just
like, and that brings me to my next point here. Like, and you know, a lot of people say that when, for instance, a male to a female, that they should stop doing dude things. And you know, like, I have my own personal opinions about, like, I feel like if you make a transition, you should probably transition, you know. But I think about like appearance and like personality. Like, you can't say that you're a dude and like you don't ever attempt to dress like a dude or act like one. But like, you know, I've known you, again, you know, the better part of 10 years.
yeah.
And when you were Joey, you were a diehard hockey fan. You know, oh, Rangers suck. And you were a diehard Cubs 100 years. That says anything. And you're also a
It just won
diehard.
it.
Yeah, they finally won 100 years. And you're also a diehard wrestling fan. And again, we connected on a lot of those because I like baseball, I like hockey, I fucking love wrestling. You know, and you didn't drop any of that. And I know at first you had a little bit of a hard time because you actually thought about, like, can I still do this?
Yeah.
And like, I remember when you were just like, fuck it, like, I'm still watching my baseball, I'm still watching my hockey, I'm still watching my wrestling, but I'm a woman. And like, explain like how hard that was for you.
I think that hockey really wasn't that hard because I just like I've loved hockey since I was little. Like I just like have been all my life I've been a hockey fan, so like it wasn't really that hard to like come to terms with the fact that I'm a hockey fan, whether I'm a man or a woman. And then me being a Cubs fan, that's like a live like you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. That's kind of like
Fucking represent.
yeah, and that's like a lifelong commitment.
For those of you who are just listening to the audio, I'm literally wearing a Chiefs hoodie right now.
Yeah, and I didn't even like it. All I saw was red, and I just like you're normal with red on. So, anyways, but the hardest part for me was pro wrestling, and so I'm gonna shoot a little bit here. As Connor knows, I think did you meet me at the end of my career?
No, you were still going. Like you had more matches behind you than you had in front of you at the time, but I met you about almost a year before your first Terry Funk retirement tour.
No. I'm talking about my real wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, that was already gone.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's when you still had that I mean, you're still in the studio, but like when you had like all the wrestling tapes around you and shit like that, we just like would watch your website for hours. Because I remember, you had like the whole, I think it was like the Bryan Danielson title reign, that or the Samoa Joe one. It was one of the two, and we just watched that shit for like ever, like.
Yeah.
But like me and you also would watch the videos of you being a pro wrestler and stuff like that. That brings me to my next question. Do you ever think?
Let me finish. So because I was a pro wrestler as a male, and my love for pro wrestling came from when I was a male, that all I saw was the male aspect of it, and I didn't see the female aspect of it, that I could be a fan as a female. Well, now I'm a fan as a female because, like, for example, like, I think Matt Taven's really attractive.
Oh my fucking God.
I think that Jay Lethal is not only good looking, he's talented.
Oh my God, Kara's mad.
Yes. Dick. And then I love the Briscoe brothers because they bring that Smash Mouth style that I love from pro wrestling.
Briscoe brothers just remind me of family members. That's all it is for me.
So what's your question? What's your next question?
So like my next question is like, and you were a pro wrestler, you know, as a male, you know, previously as Joey. What do you think, you know, your career would have been if you would have been a female? Like, do you think you would have had any more success? Because, like, and I'm not being sexist towards the pro wrestling industry, because you were a manager for a long time. And women managers tend to get, and you fucking people can fight me about this all they want, they tend to get more TV airtime than men managers, unless you're a fucking mic master, which you are. But, like, the eye candy aspect plus, like, the mic mastery, do you think you would have had, like, a tad bit more successful career as one?
I honestly believe if I had transitioned earlier, that I would have found much more success than I may have possibly made it to a developmental deal with some company. I believe that I would have, like, maybe Memphis. You know, I was looking forward to, like, being part of Memphis wrestling because I love Memphis wrestling. So, I believe that I would have either ended up in Memphis or as a developmental territory. And when I say Memphis, I will tell you that I say that with a lot of caution, because I know a lot of people will say, well, you couldn't have made it in Memphis. Buddy, Memphis was pretty easy to make it into at the time that I'm talking about, because they were just looking for talent at the time. So, and yes, I do believe I would have been successful in some rights.
So now let's fast forward a little bit. You've been transitioned 2 years. Here's where we get to the personal question.
Okay. Bring them on.
What effect has this had on your personal life? Like your marriage, your family, and stuff like that? Like, because I know, you know, what effect it has had on some of it. But I know there's a lot that you keep in the closet. And I feel like for this moment, for this docuseries, and as much as it means to me and as much as it means to you, it's time to let some of that out.
Well, I will say this, that like, because this is such a long question, and a question that deserves answers, that maybe possibly to help the question along, you can tag on with other questions as well to help the question along. So I will answer your question to the best of my ability, and then if you need more information, I will I will be glad to give that information. My family, and if you're listening, I love you, but I'm going to be honest with you. My family, and I'm talking about my blood, not my brother Greg and my sister Ann are not my actual blood relatives, but they are, like, Greg has been my brother since I was 9, and Ann has been my sister since I was 19. So they are, and Antoine has been my brother since I was 19. So those three have been like super supportive. As far as my actual blood family goes, and again, if you're listening, because I'm going to put the link out on Facebook and people are going to listen to it, hopefully. My family seems to be supportive, or accepting, one or the other. And I don't know how accepting they are. But I will say that, like, I just don't get any feedback other than we're Facebook friends, and that's it. One of them asked me about my roof today, which is the first that I've heard from anybody that I haven't contacted. So there's
That
that.
fucking shit show you got going on over there.
Right? Exactly. I do have a Cash App if you want it.
We're
For the,
actually we're actually gonna
for
put your
the,
Cash App link in the description box below, because again, this is the whole point of this docuseries is to help not only Liana but the transgender community, because again, my whole the whole point of doing this was to not just spotlight Liana, who is my best friend, but it's to spotlight the lower middle class transgender community, because like we know it's hard out there, guys, especially for people transitioning who have next to no money and just next to no assistance. You're not Kendall Jenner. You're not a celebrity. You guys don't have a fuck ton of money to just be like, oh, wait in the fucking
you
circle.
just butchered her name.
Did
There's
I?
like named out three. You've named out three Jenners that aren't the one that.
Caitlyn. Fuck, it's Caitlyn. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. There's so many of them. I'm
So
fucking sorry.
and as far as like my uh my view of it, because I ask her all the time, my wife, from what I know, is very supportive. Like, as far
Very,
as my
very.
transition goes, actually encouraged me to come out, bought me makeup, bought me clothes, actually had me, which I am probably going to answer one of your questions. She actually took me to a women's restroom the very first time, and I have not used anything different other than a women's room since.
As you should. You're a woman.
Exactly. Thank you. And so, for what I know, my my transition is like, has not negatively affected anybody in my family. However, and I'm going to go ahead and put this out on this podcast because this affected me enough to where Connor can back this up. I had started a whole different Facebook account because of this. My family, quote unquote family, from the church that I was part of for 20 years, literally turned me down and turned me away and stopped being family to me because I transitioned.
I want to say
And
to anyone who goes to that church, and if you're listening to this podcast, because I don't know if Leon's going to say, but fuck you. Fuck you. Like,
I mean, I really, like, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the sentiment, but like, they have no idea what that did to me and how that affected me. That these people that I loved and these people that I, you know, like gave my life to, and this cause that I gave my life to, like, and these people that I considered family, just decided that because of their, not scripture, but because of their dogma and their theology, that they were going to take the love that they preached and turn it around on me as venom and hate. Like, there's no love in what they did at all. They didn't preach love. They just told me, like, they just completely rejected me. So that's like, I've got lashes on and I can't cry right now.
So let's talk about, how did you, like, from day one to now, how do you think Stevie has progressed, like, during this transition?
She tells me all the time that it's not gender, that I'm her person, that she loves me for me, and like that's all that's all that I've been told, you
And
know.
she's put up with some shit from you because, contrary to popular belief, Liana is an amazing person. But sometimes Liana can be a dick bag. And Stevie has put up with some bullshit. And I've got phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from Stevie and from Liana. And I've had to tell Liana multiple times, pull your damn head out of your ass, because, like, contrary to, like, what you may believe, you guys are like an inspirational relationship, because Stevie, like, stayed through, and Stevie was a very, she's Christian, right? Not Catholic?
Yes.
Very Christian woman. And I could imagine, that, like, at some point someone, like, pulled her aside. I was like, hey, are you sure about staying with this? Like, and I'm sure, and we're gonna have this podcast with Stevie. Like, she's already agreed to come on, and I loved that. That fucking made me cry. Like, after that video call, I cried because I was like, oh my god, she said yes.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm tearing up now. Oh my god. But, like, you guys have been such an inspiration, because, like, Stevie did, what people of her culture wouldn't have done. That doesn't happen every day. People like you guys don't stay together normally when something of this magnitude goes down. And I'm so happy for you guys, especially you, because I feel like you would have went down a very dark path if Stevie would not have stuck around.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Now, what about the kids? How have the kids and the grandkids taken it?
Well,
And I apologize, this is a little bit too personal, but I feel like we need to shed a little bit of spotlight on this. This is your moment. This is your floor.
well, my son, without telling us why, disowned us about 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Dickbag.
my 1-year-old grandson has absolutely no idea. My 6-year-old grandson maybe has an idea, but I'm just Liana to him. My 8-year-old grandson is kind of still adjusting.
Yeah.
And because I was grandpa for like the first like 4 years of his life, I was grandpa. And then my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 11-year-old granddaughter, she bought me this palette.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I use it I use it pretty much every day.
That's awesome.
There's a color in here for my eyebrows that I use every day, just because, like, I have another palette that I use for my eyebrows, but because, like, I did my makeup, she did my makeup on Thanksgiving Day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
My the mother of the grandchildren is extremely accepting. Her boyfriend her fiance seems to be accepting, and I think that he's the kind of person that would tell me if he wasn't. Her parents, they love me. I'm not like really sure how they, because I haven't had that conversation other than like I'm okay with it. Like that's all I get. I love you. That's the only conversation that I've had with them. The kids that I've ministered to, some of them are kind of like, whoa, hold on a second. Like you, like, wait a minute, you're doing what? And I'm like, yeah. And a couple of them haven't talked to me, but like, it's that thinking of, that a man has to be a man, somebody that was born a man has to be a man. And I'm going to really speak out on this. Somebody that was born a female has to be a female. Like, I got to speak out for my transgender men, because, like, I know, like, a handful of y'all, and I got to say, and I'm trying not to get choked up, I love my transgender men. I love my boys. I mean, I love my girls. Don't get me wrong. I love my girls, but my boys are just so amazing. And I just, like, I can name off names, and I just, like, I love my boys. I just love my boys so much. And, like, if I could just, like, have a day where I got to hang out with my boys, I would just be, like, I would be in heaven. There's, like, men becoming women, they become women. Like every woman that I've met, like, has become a woman, and every woman that I've met that has become a man, they're amazing. Like, I have one guy that is, like, super protective of me. Like, he knows I'm married, there's nothing going on, there's no, like, this could happen and da 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 da. No, he's just super protective because he sees how people treat me. So I just had to speak on my guys for a minute.
So, with this transition, has this, like, because you've got a lot of positive and, the fair share of negative, has this made you see the worst in people, or, like, has this spotlighted, like, the better part of human beings?
Okay, so I'll go there. Not a problem. I can go there. When I first came out, it was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. Like, just the things that they're the same things that were said are being said again, and now I'm like, be fucking original, and that, that's just my reaction. And because I'm very, you know this, I'm a shooter. I just shoot back. And so when I got on TikTok 9 days ago, the one Queen Liana Rose, by the way, is my TikTok, and I'm sure that you're gonna put that in there.
Shout out.
ONE, the one Queen Liana Rose. So, yeah, I shoot on there too. And the same stuff is being said now because I'm new to TikTok, and the shit that I always heard: you're a faggot, you're going to hell, like you're always gonna be a man. It's like, nah, I'm probably the problem is I'm probably more of a woman than your girlfriend, and like that's probably the truth. And it's not only sad, like as Metallica says, sad but true.
Such a fucking song.
Yeah. So
Such a good fucking song. Not as good as Now That We're Dead, but
I don't know. I don't like. Okay, so Metallica's my favorite band, since you want to start talking about music.
Metallica might be your favorite band, but do you see that Undertaker fucking entrance to WrestleMania this year? That was fucking dope.
That what?
The Undertaker entrance, WrestleMania, came out to Now That We're Dead by Metallica
Yeah,
on the
that was
motorcycle.
amazing.
Oh, that was like Sting debuting at AEW, made me nut. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not going to be watching AEW, trust me. With them talking about possibly bringing Hogan in?
No, they've said on numerous occasions, like on Twitter, like publicly, Hogan is like banned from AEW. Hogan, Vince Russo, Jim Cornette, and like there's a couple others. There's a couple others that are like banned.
Bischoff's been there.
Well, yeah, Bischoff isn't a piece of shit.
Huh.
I mean,
Well-
business-wise, yeah, but like, well, no, not technically, because business is business. But like, oh, and Disco Inferno, he's banned.
Okay.
It's
He
fucking.
should be banned. He should have never been in the wrestling business. But that's my, anyways.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was busting out my Disco Inferno impression. So, as a transgender, now 2 years in, you got a little bit of seniority under your belt. If you had any advice for like any, new coming transgender, whether it be male to female or female to male, or I'm sure now because the other genders have been added, whatever to whatever, what would be like just one piece of advice that if you could give to any newcomer or rookie or young protege, young lion, whatever, term you want to throw in there, what would be your piece of advice?
Embrace your transition. Embrace who you are. Do it. That's it. Like, go after it. Like, if this is who you think you are, be confident in who you are and go after it and embrace it. Just like, I'm not Nike, but just do it.
Just do it.
Right?
Shia LaBeouf, great actor. So, we're 2 years deep in the transition. You've done amazing, and just for the record, post-op or pre-op? Just
Post-op?
for post-op?
No, pre-op. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you liar. I'm pretty sure you
I
still
would
have.
have told you. I would have told you.
Yeah, I'd be like, when did you have this surgery? Why didn't
right,
I
I would have
know?
told you.
I'd have flew to Jacksonville.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm pre-op.
I'd have flew to Jacksonville. Like, that is a fly to Jacksonville moment.
Well, I mean, that would have been great if you would have flown to Jacksonville, but you wouldn't have been able to see me because I'm in St. Petersburg.
But I think the surgery would have happened in Jacksonville. Like, isn't that where that big hospital is? Or could you guys do it in St. Petersburg?
No, if I'm having the surgery, I'm going to New York.
Oh, okay. I ain't flying to New York. I love you to death, but I ain't flying. That's Yankeeville. I'm from the South. South. All right, all right.
That's just the thing, is if I had the surgery, you'd come to the hospital and hang out at the hospital and then leave.
Yeah, yeah. I ain't going to I will go to New York on one condition: as long as I can go stand inside Madison Square Garden and just.
Right.
That's
you
it.
gotta smell what the Rock is cooking, right?
I smell what the God is cooking. Okay. Smell what the God is cooking.
There.
Yeah, I'll cut a promo right now.
Yeah.
So, and
Not as
speaking
good
of
as
that,
me, but I mean,
okay, I doubt promo you any day of the week. So,
yeah, anyways, but
speaking of that, and you do something, that many people may not know exists, e-fetting. And for those of you who are listening, you're like, oh, what the fuck is e-fetting? It's fantasy wrestling. If you're familiar with like fantasy football, fantasy baseball, fantasy sports in general, e-fetting is the side of fantasy wrestling. No, you do not draft a roster of superstars and book. That is TEW. No, e-fetting is where like you create a character. And there's like a couple different forms. So it's like promo to win. You can do like WRP, which is like straight up wrestling role play, where you like walk out every move that you're gonna do. That takes a lot of skill and it's fucking tedious.
that's how I started.
That's how I start. Well, no, I kind of did both at the same time when I started. That's not the point. Anyway, so me and Liana, for the better part of our careers, did promo to win. Me and Liana have both ran companies together and separate. Liana has a very decorative career as Chris DeLeon, Liana DeLeon, and now has a bunch of fucking DeLeon children out there, thanks to me. But a lot of them are out there. Jacob, Taven, Taka, or not Taka, it's like TJ DeLeon or some shit like that.
Josiah.
Josiah, that's what it is. I knew it was
Ezekiel.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot. I'm not
Sarah.
naming them all. I'm not naming them all. It's too much time. You were a whore. Too much time. But like when you were e-fetting, as Joey, I mean, you got flack for how you did your promos or like how you wrote a show or this or that, the third. Explain how the community changed for you when you transitioned.
When I transitioned, I gotta tell you, it seemed very accepting. I don't remember, like, I'm sure there was some negative feedback, but I like,
I mean
I
that's
I
kind of
was
like
just saying
with
to
though.
me that
Yeah.
I know how E-Fed people are. They say shit to like behind your back, but they won't say it to your face, and that's like, I don't know, because people were like nice to me, and if they were unkind to me, it was behind my back. So I'm sure that there was a lot of people that had something to say about me. And did I not? Did I give a fuck then? No. Do I give a fuck now? Certainly not.
So, and you've done e-fetting for 10, 15 years,
Money.
20 years. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm 10 years deep and I'm just like, fucking kill me. But 20 years deep, you finally retired this year. And yeah, guys, you can retire from e-fetting. But Terry Funk over here, retirement tour fucking 2020 never. Explain like just after you had transitioned, taking your career from running Chris DeLeon, killing that character along with Joey, and transitioning over to Liana DeLeon. And it was weird because or it wasn't weird, but it was all right. It was weird because you never were Joey DeLeon, you were Chris DeLeon, and then I just feel like with this transition, I honestly feel like it helped your E-Fed career out because you didn't just embrace the new you, but you used that new you to find the real you in e-fetting because then you created Liana DeLeon.
The goddess.
The goddess, because I am the god. But, like, do you
There
think
would be no
that...
god without a goddess. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Do you think that your transition helped reignite your career?
Yes. I think that it did. I think that, like, putting my accomplishments aside, which were many, and I'm not saying that, like, I'm just saying that as a point. Putting my accomplishments to the side as Chris DeLeon, I accomplished more in a short amount of time as Liana DeLeon than I would have had if I'd have gone 20 more years as Liana DeLeon. I would accomplish more because, as like, let's name off some of this stuff, like 25-time world champion.
In that ballpark.
Okay,
Not as good as 150, but
Yeah, but 7 times, but mine mattered. 7 times Hall of Famer.
Oh.
7-time Hall of Famer. Multiple mid-card titles as well. And that was in a span of like 18 years. And so then that's amazing. And I was ready to just like end it there and just like kind of like write out a final match, which I could have done. And I felt like
One final battle.
right, exactly. And then you
Hashtag Honor Club.
and you had I'm really upset that I'm not able to watch that. I'm not happy about it.
I'm
Because
upset I can't watch Final Battle.
huh?
I'm not upset about it.
Okay, well, anyways, but like in a year and a half, Liana DeLeon was a undefeated women's champion twice, a world heavyweight champion twice, 3 times.
Three times.
And only once has she ever been beaten for a title. So she's had a total of 5 titles and only been beaten for one, and a 3-time Hall of Famer, XMW Hall of Famer, a TEW Hall of Famer, and some other Fed that, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but it started with a W. But because half of them start with a W.
Gets inducted into the Hall of Fame but doesn't care enough to remember the name.
WXTW.
We surpassed Terry Funk, and now she's Ric Flair. All right.
But yeah, I feel like I not only feel like I accomplished more as Liana, like I really learned a lot about e-fetting. I learned more about e-fetting as Liana than I did Chris, because like people treated me differently because I was transgender, and like I was accepted as a woman, which was amazing. But then I did something that I was really proud of, and this is a shoot, straight up shoot. I presented myself in character as a woman. I made it known that outside of the character that I was a transgender woman. In the ring, Connor, I was a woman. Correct?
Yeah.
So, and I wrestled as a woman, I presented as a woman, and that was like something I was super, super proud of. That I'm more proud of than my title reigns and my Hall of Fame rings.
You should tag up with Nyla Rose. But if you didn't know, Leon, Nyla Rose is a transgender wrestler over at AEW.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know. Sometimes
I don't know.
I didn't know she was transgender. Like, did I ever tell you the story?
No, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I am. So I'm watching.
I thought this was about me.
This is. But I gotta tell you this story because this is a moment for us. Okay, like this is me talking about like how well transgenders can be. Like, so I'm watching AEW and I think it's like the first Dynamite when Nyla Rose is like presented the first time or something like that, and like. If it wasn't for Excalibur running his fucking mouth and going, oh, she's a transgender woman and she's breaking barriers and blah, 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 fucking blah, I never knew. I just thought she was a woman. I thought she was a manly-looking woman like Awesome Kong. But no, I was like, oh, she's trans. And then like, oh my God, the feedback was just, I mean, good part negative, but holy fucking negative Twitter war. But that was, yeah, I just laughed at myself because I'm like, oh,
well, and the thing about it is like, and I'm gonna go there, and I really, really hope that you don't interrupt me because I have a feeling you will. So I'm asking you, don't interrupt me. I love Jim Cornette. I absolutely love Jim Cornette. I think he's one of the smartest people in professional wrestling. When he said what he said about Sonny Kiss and Nyla Rose, I lost all respect for him. As a transgender woman, I have to side with somebody who is trying to make her name in professional wrestling, and Sonny as well, as a like Kwee was like, they made Kwee a joke, and Sonny is out there, and I love Sonny, but like I don't take Jim Cornette seriously anymore. I think that he has let his political views rape his wrestling knowledge and cloud his judgment on the professional wrestling business. And that's all I got to say about Jim Cornette. And there you go, Jim Cornette. You got on my podcast.
Well, it's like, I think Excalibur, no, it was JR that got some backlash about Sonny Kiss because like he kept calling Sonny Kiss to him, and like contrary to the popular belief, Sonny Kiss isn't a transgender. He's just a what is that word? There's a word for it.
Gender
I don't know.
fluid.
No, it's not even gender fluid. It's something else. Like it's
non-binary.
Yeah, she doesn't like he goes by he.
Right.
Or no, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what you call him. That's
right,
what it is.
Exactly. And I was.
And somebody tweeted at JR because he kept calling Sonny Kiss a he, and like granted, JR's never disrespected any of those people, like any of the transgender people or the gay people or anybody like that. He just kept calling Sonny Kiss a he, And like somebody was like, somebody needs to fire JR for that, blah blah. JR tweeted back, he's like, I have had several conversations with Sonny Kiss, and that person looked at me and said, you can call me a he because it makes it easier on you, and I want you to call my match the best as possible, and I know you don't do it out of disrespect. And I'm just like, yeah, JR, tell him to suck your left nut. Like, and JR is such a nice guy. Him and Tony Schiavone, when it comes to the transgender community and the LGBTQ plus people, they've always been so respectful. Like, granted, okay, as JR said some like shady shit, like, yeah, but he's old. Cornette says some awful shit. Like, there's a difference. JR will like throw like one-liners out there. You're like, that could be taken a certain way, JR. But Cornette like just says stupid shit. Like, he got removed from NWA for the slightly racist comment about Trevor Murdoch being so tough he could drive through Africa or something, some town in Africa with a KFC chicken bucket strapped to his back. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I giggled a little bit when I heard it because I'm just like, he's getting fired. Like, that was, and the match was good. The Trevor Murdoch match was good, and the commentary added up to it because Trevor Murdoch needed that old school commentator.
Yeah.
But like, Cornette fucked himself, shot himself in the foot.
Right.
And when you hear comments like that as a transgender, because like you've heard a lot of comments like back, pre-transition, how does that like affect you now? Like from like now, not like back like 2 years ago, because 2 years ago you're a little bit of an asshole about like all the comments and shit you heard, but now you've got like a little bit of thicker skin and stuff like that. How does it make you feel now?
Well, I wouldn't say that I was an asshole about it. I just wasn't educated, for lack of a better term. I definitely was sensitive about how other people live their lives. Like, for example, like before I didn't know what transgender was before I came out. Like, and I don't think a lot of people know that. Like, I didn't know what transgender was before I came out. I just knew I wanted to be a girl. Like, at 48 years old, 46, I didn't know, like, I knew that there was some derogatory terms that I'm not going to say that were used for men who had become women. And I, like, acknowledged it in the vein of, like, just being like, I acknowledge it up here. When I was 8 years old, and I'm answering your question, when I was 8 years old, I think I was 8, I read this book that I still have a copy of called Meet Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I read about Rosa Parks, and I read about civil rights, and I educated myself on civil rights throughout my life. And so I'm very sensitive about what you call a person other than what they deserve to be addressed as. And my whole thing is that people need to be addressed as human beings, first off. And I've always felt that way. Like, a homeless person is a human, and you need to find out, if you can't give them $5 or you can't buy them a meal, find out their name. And, the next time you walk up to them, say, hey, Tony, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing much better, da, 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 da. And you carry on a conversation with them and treat them like a human being. So that being said, like, comments like the one that were made by Jim Cornette, again, Jim Cornette got on my podcast, that he could drive through a town in Africa with a, KFC bucket, strapped to his back and not, like, whatever he said. That's intolerance.
I agree.
That is bigotry. That is racism, plain and simple. And it doesn't surprise me because he's a Southern person. Now, I will say this, that not all Southern people are that way. Not all Southern people, because I live in the South, and I will tell you that not all Southern people are that way. That is a way of thinking that you choose. Like, even if you're taught it, you choose to be that way. You choose to be a bigot or a homophobe or a transphobe, and you choose to talk that way when you get old enough to not to like, because none of us are born racists or bigots or anything, or homophobes or transphobes. None of us are born that way. We all, like, when we had sandboxes, we all played in the same sandbox. We all played on the same jungle gym, and we didn't care what other persons were. That's the way I feel about it.
And see, with me, I watch a lot of stand-up comedy. I watch a lot of podcasts. Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, and stuff like that. But I listened to, or I watched a stand-up comedy. It was Eddie Griffin, and he did a stand-up comedy where he was talking about like the right and wrong. And he was, because I think he was talking about something about like a gay person, like, oh yeah, one of his friends were gay, and people were like, don't you know that's wrong? He's like, that's bullshit. Like, no, it's not. It's not wrong. You are born knowing what right and wrong is. It's in your essence, because like you can't go kill your parents in their fucking sleep. That is right and wrong. It's in your essence. And I grew up in a very southern, very racist household. Like, my sisters were told they could not date. My grandpa would say, like, you can't date them N-words. But I'll say, we're not allowed to date black people, Mexican people, Asian people. Anybody other than white was not allowed to happen. 23 years later in my life, I have a half-black daughter. My sister has 2 half-black kids, a daughter and a boy. And I think my sister could be pregnant with a half Puerto Rican child. I'm not sure. We haven't got an update on that yet. God, please no, because I hate that guy. Not because he's Puerto Rican. He's just a piece of shit. But, and to be honest, having those kids in the family actually killed the racism. Like, as soon as the oldest now, but the firstborn, like, other than white baby was born, my grandpa was like, what is racism? Like,
Right.
Monday was using the N-word. Tuesday, N-word weren't allowed in the house.
Right.
Like, and it was so cool to see that overnight change. And like, did you see that like with your life? Because like, I gotta imagine you growing up in the South, there had to have been like a time in your life where there was like either a tad bit of like, no, I'm not gonna say like racism, but like a tad bit of like, oh, maybe being gay is bad or something like that. Like,
Well, I'll answer that in just a second, but I do want to talk about something that you brought up earlier. And another person's going to make it onto my podcast, and I would love a retort by this person. Joe Rogan said
fucking
that.
love him.
Huh?
Fucking love Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan said that transgender women have no place in female sports.
I understood it to a point, though. I understood it to a point because he was looking at the scientifical fact. He wasn't saying it like as a political standpoint. He was actually looking at the scientifical fact.
Right, and basically he was saying that if I go into a jiu-jitsu match, right?
Yeah.
And I go into a jiu-jitsu match with another white belt.
Mm-hmm.
That's a girl that was born a female. And if I beat her because I'm transgender, because I'm stronger than her. Well, let me tell you something about jiu-jitsu. And you know this, and I know this. And Joe Rogan, being the person he is and as educated he is in mixed martial arts, he should know if I beat her, it's because I was better at technique than her.
He wasn't. So what he said, and I know this because I listened to that podcast actually like yesterday. What he said was that not necessarily that they didn't belong, but it isn't a good idea for the sport and for them, because you just said it. If a transgender person, like let's say if a male to female goes and competes in the bantamweight females division, and they fight Amanda Nunes, and this guy walks in, or that well now female, this female walks in, cracked up to I think the weight division's like 155 or some shit like that. No, it was like 135, 125, some shit like that. And like brick shit house, because scientifically men are built bigger than women. Scientifically, and I'm not saying there isn't big women out there, because I've seen some muscular ass bitches in my day. Like, oh my god, China, all right, I've seen her, all right, before she died. God rest her soul. But like, you have this jacked up person walk in here to like fight Amanda Nunes, who has like a slim figure but has fucking talent. and they crack Amanda Nunes and beat them. Yes, their skill won it, but that's not how the reaction's going to be. And it's just better for their mental health, for the sport, and for all of that for just to not happen. Do I think that they need a transgender division? I think so, because I think it would be fair. But at the same time, I think I kind of agreed and disagreed with Joe Rogan on it, because I saw his point. I understood his point. And Joe Rogan was looking at it from a scientific fact, and he was thinking about the mental health of everyone involved. Because as much shit as Joe Rogan gets for his podcast, and some shit that he does say that I don't always agree with, like, he's like, that shit will take a pounding, and like, that shit causes suicide, and he just doesn't want to see that, because he absolutely loves MMA, or UFC specifically for that promotion. But
Well, I have to say that, like, if I, like, when I go back to jiu-jitsu, like, my body has, like I have estrogen in my body now, and the testosterone has gone down, like, significantly. And if I go to jiu-jitsu, they're gonna put me with a girl, and let's fast forward like 2 more years, and there's a transgender division. Who am I supposed to train with, the guys or the girls?
you make a good point. You know, I'm just saying, like, I understood his point. Like, I understood it because he was, like, thinking about everyone involved. You know, and he didn't want the thing to get taken away from the lady or man that would win that was transgender, because he, you know, he was really thinking about everyone involved, and like, kudos to Rogan for that, but I feel like Rogan could have like said it different, you know. And not everyone.
I'm not saying that he should have said it different. I'm saying that, first off, like, it's none of his business.
And
He's not the promoter. He is an announcer. That is all he is. He
Exactly.
is somebody with a podcast, just like you, that has an opinion on something.
Yeah.
And I, as a transgender woman, not only do I disagree with it, it's like, he doesn't know the mechanics of transitioning. Like,
Yeah.
he knows the mechanics of MMA. I'm not going to take that away from him. He has a knowledge of MMA that I could only dream of. Like, you know, and I've been in the wrestling business, so I have, like, knowledge of the wrestling business that some people don't have, and some people have more of. But that being said, he doesn't understand the dynamics of being transgender and what the toll that it takes on your body. That as it takes that toll, it also, like, the testosterone goes down and the estrogen goes up. So your body at some point is going to start revolting, and you're going to get sick. A trans girl that tells you that she didn't get sick, she's lucky. Like, I got sick all the time. Like, I'm not talking about throwing up sick. I'm just, like, talking sick to my stomach. And I've been sick the past couple of days because I think I'm going through another growth spurt. I think I'm, like, you know, possibly, and I'm losing weight, so I'm not sure. But you did have another question.
So, like, I'm trying to remember where I was with that question.
It was completely unrelated.
Oh, I don't remember then. But, so, you know, since, you know, with the whole Joe Rogan thing and stuff like that, and, you know, you as a transgender, you know, person, male to female, in your favorite sport obviously being professional wrestling, hockey, and baseball, do you think that there needs to be, like, more transgender people, whether it be male to female or female to male, going into those sports and getting as big as a spotlight as, like, said, like, Nyla Rose, and, like, I think there was a trans football player not too long ago. Like, I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive there was. Because, like, there's, like, not a whole lot of women football players. There's, like, a kicker for a college football team now that's, like, getting all the fucking glory right now. And the woman coach for the 49ers that choked to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Fuck off. But, you know, like, do you think that, like, people like that deserve, like, more of a spotlight?
I do. I really honestly, but at the same time, I think that, like, in answering that question, I think that, I go back to what I had said earlier, that we need to be seen as human beings and treated as human beings and categorized as human beings, and that there should be no, I don't believe in segregation of any kind. I don't believe in, like, that's all I'm going to say on that. I really could get started on that. I don't believe in segregation of any kind, and I
I
believe
do
that,
believe in self-separation because fuck, I just want to go away from the world.
that's different. That's different. Like, if you want to just, like, go away from the world and stay on the earth,
Or,
I
yeah,
love,
I'm not saying like off myself or anything. I'm saying like going out to like off the grid,
yeah. And I feel that way sometimes, but I like the internet too much. Um, but yeah, I just think that, like, we should be treated as humans.
And so, but before we wrap things up here, do you have like anything to say to the people that have, doubted you, said some scumbaggy, ocious things to you, and like just the evil people, that have been in your life in the last 2 years, pre and post transition? You have anything to say to them now that you're 2 years in, you've stayed out, you've done the necessary steps, and you're still doing them one by one? I'll have one final question before we do wrap things up. That's like my second to last question.
So, I doubt the people that doubted me are ever going to hear this. I really honestly
I'm
do.
fucking sharing this everywhere.
Okay, so, um, I really don't understand why you doubted me and why you didn't love me and why you didn't say, I believe in you and I'm here for you and I love you, and why that was so hard to do. And for the people that have come from pre-transition, oh my God. And I mean, wow, y'all fucking, wow, y'all are amazing. I really honestly don't believe that I could have gotten where I need to be without my pre-transition crowd. Like, then there's so many of them. I mean, there's more post-transition people than there are pre-transition people, and I'm not, like, if you're listening to this and you're a post-transition supporter, I love you, and I'm not taking anything away from you. You're absolutely amazing. But the pre-transition people, the people that were there, the moment I said it's over, it's over. Like, I can't live like this anymore. The people that are pre-transition is just like, I just, like, and the fact that you're still with me through all the shit I've been through is just, like, amazing. To the post-transition people, the people that found out that I was transgender, or I introduced as my transgender, that I'm transgender, wow, just, you know, especially the guys. Like, there's not a lot of guys that, like, and Connor will attest to this, I do not allow a lot of guys in my life
For real.
because I don't trust men.
For real.
And uh the guys have just been amazing, and there's very few guys in my life, but the ladies that have accepted me as one of them, it's just been like, wow, this, hey girl, how you doing, girl? I actually have a lady that knows me, has known me for 5 years, and she's buying me makeup.
It's
That's the
awesome.
kind of friends, that's that's the kind of friends I have. But to the people that doubted me, and to the people who turned their backs on me, I just, you hurt me. And the same God that you preach that I'm going to stand in front of, that I'm absolutely fine with standing in front of, is the
Standing
same,
right here.
standing, you will stand in front of that same judgment seat for the judgment you made on me. Next
So
question.
now the final question before we wrap things out. What is next for Liana Bardin? You've done the hormones. You've done I believe you're going to like voice therapy now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you've been doing the voice therapy, the makeup, the wigs. Can't believe it's a fucking wig, actually. Sometimes, I can't even imagine, I've grown so attached to this person that you are now, like that you were the entire time. And, I remember Joey, bald-headed, double stunning candy ass with a long goatee. And, like, now I see you and I'm just like, fuck, like, I don't remember Joey anymore. Like, because the wigs are natural to me. Like I've seen you without it because like I've just seen you raw. Like I've seen you in your complete honest form, not naked. Calm down, Stevie. Not naked. If you're listening to this, I've never seen her naked. Not yet. Wink, wink. No, I'm playing. But I've seen her in a rawest form, and like, but so where do you go next? What is the next step?
I think that for me that as transition wise is just, I was gonna say something, but then I thought about something that I'm working on right now, and I'd like to announce it on this podcast, even though I announced it on the Book of Face.
The Book of Face.
I love calling it that.
The Hub of Truth.
So I was I had to call the place where I get my hormones, and they are a community center, so they deal with everything. And so I had a girlfriend who was transgender, and we were going to the trans feminine meetings together. And I got to get comfortable for this one. This is actually going to take a little bit of time, unless you want me to do this on another one.
No, you're good. You're good. You got all the time. This is your floor. This is a 10-part docuseries. We're gonna spend like, I'm pretty sure how I mapped it out. I'm almost positive this can be pretty close to a 24-hour project. Like,
Okay.
4 hours
So
of content. So
anyways, we were going to the trans feminine meetings together, and like she has social anxiety, so she didn't really like to do anything and be around anybody, which I've learned is like super super difficult for the person that has social anxiety. So I kind of befriended her because if you've got you know social anxiety and you don't like going out, then maybe somebody needs to come in there with you and hang out with you at your house. So I finally taught her into letting me come over to her house, and I came over to her house. We did makeup, we did nails and stuff like that, and I revealed, like, in a not in a pornographic way, but I revealed something about myself that because I needed, not that I needed her to trust me, but I wanted her to trust me. So I did something to like make myself vulnerable, and everything went fine. And about a week later, when we were still doing well financially, because we're not doing well financially now, we went to Torrid, and Torrid is a place for plus size women.
2020 in a nutshell, not doing well financially.
Yeah, and so we went to Torrid, and Stevie and I are both plus size women, and so Stevie bought me a coral colored top, and it went really well with a coral colored skirt that I already had. So we got that, and then we got me a bathing suit because now I can wear bathing suits, which, thank you, hormones. And then she bought this plaid black and white dress for herself. And it's not a rule, but like when something doesn't fit her, she lets me try it on. And if it doesn't fit me, it goes back to the store for a return. So I tried it on and it fit like really well. And so I tried it on and I was like, take a picture of me and I'll put it on Facebook. Well, the girl that I had been working with that I went over to her house, she she I'm sorry, she said like publicly that that doesn't look good on you. And I was like, excuse me, you could have done that personally, like privately. So anyways, that happened and then she was really, really nasty to me. And I blocked her and I cut her off. And she then threatened me and said, if don't come to the meetings. And I contacted Metro, and Metro was like, we'll take care of it. And then some other things happened. And to get to my point, I asked them, I said, is there a way that I can get involved in Metro? They said, actually, we've been wanting to talk to you about that. They have a transgender fashion expo every year. And they want me on the planning committee.
That's awesome. That is terrific. I'm so glad that that's going to happen for you.
And then, on top of it, guess what?
What?
They want to interview me for their social media.
Hey, there you go. Look at this. Look,
but I'm here first.
We're opening doors. Yeah, it was here first, motherfucker. We were here on ZFG first.
Right.
And, a lot of people are going to talk a lot of shit, in the next couple of years about everything. And, if this podcast never gets heard or anywhere, first of all, fuck y'all for not listening. Second of all, thank you if you do listen. I just want to thank you for this, because this podcast, I sat in my car for like 2 hours, in the middle of my life falling apart. I sat there and I thought, like, what can I do to spark a light for people? And I thought about you, and I'm like, something hit me in the heart, and it made me tear up a little bit, because you hear all the time about celebrities and their moments in life, whether they come out gay or transgender or die of cancer or crash their helicopter, R.I.P. Kobe, fucking Kobe. But you never hear about the lower middle class and how hard anything might be, or even the lower class. You never hear about how hard things really are. And, something like this is just one of the hardest things people can go through. It's up there with the divorce and, losing a kid or losing a parent or just losing a family member or a friend in general. But, a transition, it is, I can say this now, is one of the hardest things I've ever seen.
Right.
Because it has been a hell of a road.
Right. I want to say two things that, my hormones have come first because Stevie wants me to have my hormones. So if you are listening to this and you see my Cash App link, I want to ask you to donate for my hormones so that we can take that money for my wife's diabetes medicine and her high blood pressure medicine and her cholesterol medicine and put that money towards her. That's what I want. So that I can buy my hormones with the money you give, and that she can take the money that comes in from her finances and be able to buy her medicine. And I also wanted to say, wanted to answer your question. What's next? What's the next step in my transition? Is becoming a voice for transgenders to make a large impact for the transgender community, for the LGBT community as well.
Exactly.
That's what I want to do.
And you're already paving roads. You're already, breaking down barriers, and I'm so proud of you. And again, in the final moments of this, I want to thank you for everything, you've been through, and you've stuck with it. And because I did some research the other day. I Googled the suicide rate of the transgender community. Holy fuck, is it terrible. I think I'll Google it again just to make sure. because I'm almost positive it was like damn near like 75%. It's like, hold on. So I'm going to go suicide rate of transgender community. See, I think it was this one. Hold on. My internet is a little slow, so I do apologize.
While you're doing that, I did want to bring up that there have been 45 in 2020. There have been 45 transgender murders.
Yeah, the murders is terrible. So 29.9% of transgender female to male or male to female teenagers attempted. 41.8% of adults, making altogether a 68.7% suicide rate. And that is fucking ridiculous. First of all, if you are having any kind of mental, and this is anybody listening, and to you, Liana, if you're having any kind of issues like that, please reach out to either the National Suicide Hotline or, to a friend, a family member, somebody that'll listen. It's never the way to go. Somebody out there loves you,
And I am asking that you also put the National Suicide Prevention Hotline in the link below.
I will. I will.
And also and I will also send you the trans suicide hotline as well. That way it's available for people that are transgender. And I also wanted to say that I lost my train of thought. That's amazing. I never do that.
It's because you're old.
I love you.
I love you too. All right. So again, we're going to wrap things up here. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Leon, for coming in. We're going to have part 2 in the next couple of days. Me and Leon's going to sit down and schedule a part 2. We're going to have Stevie, her wife, on hopefully in the next episode. That's my goal for this. And again, if you're anybody that had been in Liana's transition, I'm going to try to get you on this podcast because this is about not just Liana, but how it affected everybody around in her family, her inner circle, for you AEW fans out there. Thank you so much, Liana, for being here. I love you so much. Thank you, guys. Good night.